Hi, this is Simon from Tokyo Productions, and welcome to this follow-up to my recent Final Cut Pro 10 title tutorial. So this falls into two parts. The second part is going to be the fun part, where we're going to be looking at creating an alternative version of the animation that doesn't require keyframes and gives us a little bit more flexibility about what we can publish. But the first part relates to something I suggested in the original tutorial, which was that you should link the face color of the text to the color solid. And although I haven't had any problems with this at my end, a few of you have reported that it's causing difficulties for you. So I'm going to suggest a different way of doing it. I suspect there's an Apple bug that's responsible for this, but let's not go into that. Okay, so in this text group here, I'm going to add object generators, image generators, color solid. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to link this color to the original color. So add parameter behavior link, and I'm going to drag in the original color solid. So these two are linked and they're both white. And that'll avoid a potential problem where you're linking two different types of color together. So let me just put this to the back of this group. So object send to back, and very simply, I'm going to apply an image mask to that. So right click, add image mask, and we're going to use the clone layer as the source for that. And you'll see now that that works perfectly fine. And that if we come over to our project pane and we adjust our color here, the color of the text changes as well. So I think that's a safer way of doing it. But let's move swiftly on to the more interesting part of this, and that's how we're going to sort out this animation. Now you'll probably remember that we animated this mask here using keyframes on the X position. And what that gave us was a fixed 12 frame animation in and out. So the advantage of the method I'm going to show you is that we'll be able to publish a speed control. So let's reset that position value to delete all those keyframes. And let's also come to 12 frames on the timeline, markers, marker, delete marker. You remember we set a built-in, build-out marker there. So markers, delete marker for the one at 60 frames as well. So we've deleted our markers there. Instead, we're going to open up this position here, select the X value, add parameter behavior, ramp. And what we're going to do is we're going to set the start and end value of these to create our animation. So if you remember, we started at minus 510 over on the left, and we ended at plus 510 over on the right. And so if we look at what happens there, that's creating that same animation, but obviously over the entire duration of the project, which is not what we want. We only want it to run half the duration, or less than half the duration. So what I'm going to do is come to frame 36, and I'm going to come to mark out. And I'm going to call this ramp X. And then what I'm going to do is something you think you probably or shouldn't be able to, which is select this X value, and again, add parameter behavior ramp. And I'm going to come to frame 37 and come to mark in. So now what we've got, let's open up our timeline editor. You can see that we've got two ramp behaviors, one of which takes over from the other. So I'm going to call this one ramp Y. Close down the timeline editor, we don't need to see that. And I'm going to do the opposite for these values. So we want to start over here on the right. So start value 510 and end value negative 510. So now if we look what happens, our animation proceeds exactly as it should. It's just that it's lasting the full 36 frames rather than the 12 frames that we originally envisaged. Because what we're going to do is we're going to rig the start and end offsets. So what we want to do is, first of all, select the ramp X end offset and come here and add to rig, add to new slider, because this is going to be a speed control. And then I'm going to come to the ramp Y, and I want to rig the start offset. So we can do that by dragging the start offset onto that slider. So let's now call this slider speed, And then the first thing I want to do is set this range maximum to 36. And then all I need to do is to enter a value of 36 for both of these ramp values there. And we'll see that if I now set the speed to 12 frames, which was our original target, it works perfectly. And we can set the speed all the way up to 36 if we want, which is our very slow speed. We'd probably never want that, but we might want 24. And what we can do is we can set build-in and build-out markers, so these animation values will be protected even if we stretch out our title for a longer duration. So let me just open up the timeline editor so we can see this in action. I'm going to come to frame 36 and I'm going to hit Shift M to set a marker. I'll step forward one frame and again hit Shift M. Then I'll come to Mark, Markers, Edit Marker. So this one at frame 37 I want to set to be build out mandatory. And I'm going to step back to the previous one and I'm going to select build in mandatory. And you can see that these two markers have now changed to be build in, build out. And that's going to, as I say, protect our animation. So I'm going to set the default speed to 12 frames. And then what we can do is we can publish this speed control. So if we come over to the project pane, this speed control will give us the speed of our animation in and out in frames, all the way up to 36 if that's what we want. But the good thing about having done this is that we can also affect the direction of the animation. So let me show you that. And first of all, I've got to correct a really silly error here, which is these are not ramp X and ramp Y. They're obviously ramp start and ramp end. So how are we going to affect the direction? So we're going to just select one of these start and end values, and we're going to come to add rig, and let's make it a pop-up. And we'll call this pop-up direction. Then we'll come back to our ramp behaviors here. I'm going to hold down the command key. I'm going to select start value for this ramp start, the end value for the end, and the start value for the end, and I'm going to drag those onto the direction pop-up there. That brings them all into play. I only want 2 snapshots here because I'll delete snapshot 3. So snapshot 1 I'm going to call from left, and that's our current behavior. And I'm going to select snapshot 2, let's call it from right. And then we're just going to simply swap these values around. So positive 510, positive 510, negative 510, negative 510. And the direction is going to be reversed. So you'll see that now wipes on from the right and wipes back to the right. But it disappears in the middle. So how are we going to fix that? Well, that is all down to this link behavior on the clone layer. If you remember, we were linking the opacity of the clone to the X position. But now, because our animation is running in the opposite direction, we're having to use that negative X position value to drive a positive opacity value. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this scale value and I'm going to add it to my direction rig there. So for the from right, I'm going to enter a value of -100. And now you'll see that that works, because we've inverted the way that value operates, switched back to from left, and again that's working. So then all we need to do is to publish this direction, and there you go. We can select from right or from left from our main controls there. So all we need to do is to pop back to Final Cut and just see if that works. So here I am in Final Cut 10. I'm going to select the title, hit Q to bring it into my sequence, come to our controls here. We can adjust the speed, so let's bring that down to 24. Let's stretch it out just to see that everything is working as it should. Nice slow reveal there. Extended hold and then wipe off. Let's try the from right. Yep, that works too. And then we can adjust the color. So that's all good. Okay, I hope that's been useful. Thanks very much indeed for watching, and I'll see you again on the next one.